just on Google, 40,000 daily searches are done in finding tradespeople every day in this country. When we moved here to London, we found a lot of problems in the industry that I'm currently addressing, which is home services. We wanted a plumber, it was a challenge. We wanted a removals person, it was a problem. We wanted to find a locksmith or an electrician. Everything was just a nightmare. Calling friends, going to the internet, finding unreliable people's calls going on voicemails, needing to do double bookings. And there was just a plethora of challenges. There was no shortage of problems. It was just problems galore. The industry, I think, is in a deep mess. And I think what was important for us, that if we are having so many problems, I wonder what the market must be going through.
Welcome to Straight Talk, where we cut through the BS and get straight into real conversations with some of the best minds on the planet. I am your host, Af Malhotra. I am blessed to be leading these extraordinary discussions and asking tough questions that then elicit insightful answers, accelerating our awareness of the biggest issues impacting our lives and the future of humanity. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You have Af Malhotra here again on Straight Talk. I'm the host and founder of Straight Talk. Today's show is a very special one for me because we're launching our first season, alternative season for 2023, which we're calling Startup Mavericks. Now, this is really close to my heart because, as you know, I am a startup. I am a maverick of sorts, and I've invested at least a decade of my life in trying to figure out what problems around the world need to be solved with advanced technology, with great technology solutions out there. And I've done that myself. And I wanted to make sure that we create a platform for incredible founders, incredible leaders out there who are building the next generation of companies using the coolest technologies, be it generative AI, be it IoT, be it the world of the metaverse, be it Web 3.3, be it even, technologies that are unreachable right now, nanotechnology, quantum, and even aspects of robotics, which we know exist and are being deployed in their own form around the world. I just want to make sure I give coverage to all of these amazing founders as much as I can, and totally free of charge with our not-for-profit agendas. That's what Startup Mavericks is all about. Hashtag Startup Mavericks is going to be the new season. I'd like to welcome my first guest, who is initiating this series for us. So this will be a memorable series because it's the start of this new season. And this gentleman is not only an experienced operator and a founder and a tech entrepreneur, but also just a really expansive thinker. And every time I've spent time with Anuj Gupta, who I will introduce to you in a moment, I've come away enriched. So I've come away energized. I've come away thinking about my life and the state of society and the state of business and the future of entrepreneurship differently. And that's his unique ability. And so without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today, Anuj Gupta, the founder of Greenvan, which is the startup we're going to be talking a lot about today. Anuj, welcome to Straight Talk. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Af. Thank you so much for having me. And I just heard from you. I'm the first. I tell my wife that I couldn't be your first, so I decided to be your last. And I'm so glad that I'm happy to be here to be your first.
Always. And, this is a linchpin moment because this episode and what we talk about today, as you know, this is an unscripted session. This is without any notes. We don't pre-plan this stuff. We go with the flow, and it's as authentic and as real as possible, which is why everything's allowed. It's no holds barred. And I want to start first by, not only just welcoming you, but asking you to take us through a whistle-stop journey of who Anuj is and your illustrious career. You're a young man, actually, like I am, and you have a fantastic background, and there's some brilliant stories, and brilliant life experiences, good and bad, of course, that make you who you are. And I think I do believe that life is not just about the linear path of exponential success. It's peppered with dark spots. There's some low points and some hardships you have to go through to finally swim through a treacle and climb uphill and get to this point where you've got a little bit of wisdom. And we hope, entrepreneurs like us have a little bit of wisdom. So I'm going to try and take as much out of that amazing brain of yours and your life experience as possible. So firstly, Anuj Gupta, who is Anuj Gupta? What should we know about you? Tell us a bit about your background and who you are, Anuj.
I think inside of every 66-year-old, there is a 16-year-old wondering what happened. And thanks for making that introduction and keeping the lunatic out of the introduction. But I think, by the way, the title of your series is absolutely dope. I love the title. It's StraightTalk. It's to the point. It's pertinent for me to sort of appreciate that. Who is Anuj Gupta? I mean, I'm just trying to be myself in a world that's trying to make me someone else. And finding that gap and finding that reality and creating a disproportionate amount of value to the ecosystem is what I get driven by. I'm driven by making disproportionate contribution to community and society to know for myself that, yes, we are here to do something good.
Mm-hmm. Walk us through how this journey started for you. I guess entrepreneurship for you started at a much younger age. Give us some glimpses of that memory and that experience.
Okay, so first of all, I was born in a family with my grandmother as a saint who's been meditating on top of a mountain for the last 20 years. So I'm blessed by her. And being born in India, I think I won the lottery of receiving unconditional blessings. So I'm a lot about the energy, frequency, and vibration, and much more into personalities and not so much into nationalities.
Okay. And you're originally from India, I guess. Tell us about how your relationship with entrepreneurship started. So were you always an entrepreneur? Or did you work for a corporation? Well, what was that trigger moment? We all have that moment where the switch happens.
You know, I mean, India was blessed with micro consumers and large numbers. And I think consumers are generally blessed with divine discontent.
Yeah.
I always found that there was somehow there was not enough penetrative thinking that was going on in the business models and generally in ideas around us, still keeping life very uncomfortable. So my goal has always been as to how I can think of consumer first approach and have that vision and then micro execution to back that, to address the amount of pain I want to address, to create, to address the slip between the cup and the lip, to make the world a better place and pass a safer world to our next generation.
Yeah. But what drove you to that, though? I get it. I get that. There's got to be some experience in your life that's got you so attached to addressing this issue for the consumer. Is it where you lived? Is it your background? Is it your family? Because I want to get to the core of your personal story, because the whole point of StraightTalk is admittedly about the solution that you have. Before we get to the solution, frankly, you are the change agent. It is your ideation and your ability to execute that got you to this point. So I want to know who you really are. So let's take that mask off one more time.
No, absolutely, Af. And I think I felt I was pretty extinguished. So I said, let's give a shot at becoming distinguished. And, it was about certain amount of intelligence that I felt that I could bring to the ecosystem, and I could make a change and I could make a difference. And I just thought that, there is enough benefit to be contributed in the system. And that's how I was driven by it. I came from a family of professionals, and I felt that, learning like a scientist and applying like a businessman and making a huge amount of change and upping creating the new normal, upping the basic average is where my interest lied. And, having that, a little more legroom in economy class of a plane, or having a little more, comfort for the average consumer is what I felt I was driven by. And I mean, I was truly driven by these gaps that I saw in systems and markets.
Yeah. So did you, your early journey, you talked about how you had built a company and it was in technology, and that technology company gave you the juice, the mojo, the impetus, and the experience, I guess, to go off and travel into other parts of the world. Just walk us through that journey, because I found that fascinating, how from India, you ended up in the United States. Tell us what happened and where were those big breakthroughs for you? Because of course, at one stage you were interviewed as, the up and coming young entrepreneur and star back in India in the Forbes, I think it was called the Forbes 30 under 30. So what happened there? What is that backstory? Tell us about that.
That was the CNBC. But I think the lubrication of technology became the vector of my catalytic approach to creating the next best solution. And I do believe that the best is on its way. So,
Right.
I had built a technology in the travel space because I traveled so much around the world after my finishing St. Stephen's College in Delhi. I went on a sabbatical around the world for a year and found a lot of problems in travel because of my journey. And I decided to build a travel technology company. And I ended up building and becoming a partner to eBookers, which is the largest online player in Europe. And because of that, the gap we found where you picked up the phone, you spoke to a travel agent, they had a great price but no seat, or somebody had a great seat but no good price. And I saw that huge gap, and I said, the inventory is becoming real, the systems are getting real, and we became the first company in the world to be certified by Amadeus, and then we ended up winning the award for the best technology in the world by Microsoft for building that consumer-facing, very fast-moving, because it was a business of managing ice. If you could sell it before it melts, kind of a thing. You had to sell it before it melts. And it was about putting the head to the bed in those days in that space. So yes, so the idea always was the velocity of technology, the ease that we can deliver to the consumer, and becoming a very realistic and not an opportunistic business is what I was driven by, because I was always anti those kind of approaches and pro-consumer approach. So it was just about that, and it was about finding a real gap, finding a real need, and saying, let's address it and become the real contributor to that sector, industry, and area of business.
How do you win that opportunity then? Have you just created a business on the spot, or was it like fate, or you knew people? How did you get it? Because entrepreneurs and people out there always want to know, how did you get the break, right?
Yeah, I think it is about, there is no golden parachute. There is no magic bullet. The journey is from A to B to C. Once you felt the pain yourself. I was traveling and trying to find deals, and I was trying to go, when I was traveling from here to there, I was like, this is not real. This is crazy, and something needs to happen. So there was a technological shift that was becoming available in the adjacent possible, with the big reservation system launching the APIs. And I was like, we can plug into that and make everything real time. This is going to be super easy for the consumers to work with. And when you know that, then you want to figure out a solution which is going to create your deep moat and your deep intellectual property. You double down on that. So the consumer ease is real, the economics are real, and your technology is going to be backed by deep moats. You basically now have this triangular equation of what we call the dominant player formula, and that ends up becoming the winning formula. So I think, that formula of those three key virtues becomes, I think, what we call the dominant player formula, which becomes the winning formula.
Did you do it yourself, or did you partner with someone? Did you have a co-founder? Did you do it solo?
Yeah, no, I actually did it so well. I got a person who had spent a lot of time in the travel space and also had idea of technology, but we ended up building an amazing team early on with the people who were struggling and hustling like I was, who had similar ambition, but they became the key members of the team with me being the founder. But I think that was a lot of fun. And I had obviously then a co-founder eventually, who was an amazing person as well. So we had a great time, and we ended up after a lot of struggles and a lot of challenges, but I think the journey became very smooth and very interesting. So we ran a pretty decent sized operation with a couple of hundred people. I was all of 2021 at that time.
Wow. So you sold the business? Did you exit it?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because the idea was not to, I think the idea in any business is to max it, right? The reason for entry could be exit, but I think for us, it was about maxing it. And we were lucky to get an opportunity from the US, from a business that found us aligned. And it was, it was worth examining that. And yes, we made an exit of that in the early 2000s. So that was the journey of getting exported to the US as a part of the exit.
Wow. So what happened in the US then?
Well, so when I went to the US, this person who had bought my company had bought many other businesses. He decided to take me on the board of the principal company, and he had come out of an exit to a major telco. He saw a huge opportunity in creating this micro retail network across the US, because he thought that the old days of selling bread and milk for the shopkeepers are going, and digital inventory is becoming available. Whether you wanted to sell a train ticket, or you want to send long distance calling card, or you wanted to transfer money, it was all going to be done from a computer terminal. So he wanted to put a ruggedized backbone of these technological sort of touch points across the US. And we ended up starting a retail business with 2 outlets. And then ultimately, we expanded that by working very hard in understanding the consumer psychology and the value to the retailer, and expanded that to a much larger business with almost about 13,000 outlets across the US.
Right. And you were pretty young then, right?
Yeah, I was, age is a number, but I think with the experience that we had was interesting. I think I was 26 at that time.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you left your family, you left them behind. You moved to, as in like your parents or whatever. I don't know if you were married then. Luckily enough to be married then. So you moved to the States and you set up this business. And so, how long did you run it for? What was the sort of time frame?
Wherever I may go, I cannot forget where I come from. So
Yeah.
I always had memories, and India was living inside of me.
Yeah.
I ran the business for almost 5 years before we got an exit in that business, because we had become pretty large. We had become second largest player in our space in the micro retail, and then we got a very healthy exit. This was just before the big meltdown. I made that exit and moved back to India and got married, and then the next chapter of my life began.
Got it. Awesome. So you're right now in the UK, I believe, and you shuttle between England and India, and also the States, because you have your fingers in so many different pies. And look, when we talk, and we've talked in the past, what I found intriguing about you is the sort of level of awareness that you have about the global geopolitical landscape, and also the local micro occurrences, that impact society and impact the local economies in the countries that you've lived in this case, the United Kingdom, which is where you are these days. So what intrigued me is how you have this ability to connect dots. And I find that entrepreneurs who have the ability to just create linkages from unrelated things, right? And then seek out opportunities, gaps, patterns, trends through dialogue, through conversation. It's not like an isolated, you're not sitting in a room for, 10 hours trying to figure it out yourself. Through discussion and debate. It's just incredible. I think that's the early indicators of what I would describe as a maverick. A maverick has this unique X factor ability. Not every entrepreneur is a maverick, by the way. So the maverick entrepreneurs have this unique ability to do one of many things, is this thing, to just seek out patterns. One of the patterns you spent time talking to me about, and I would call it a pattern and a problem, which I know bothers you, is related to the startup you've been building over the last few years. Tell me about, what is this problem? What is this thing that has bothered you that you're so emphatic and passionate about?
I think, first of all, it's important to have the range of what we call from the penthouse to the basement. Second of all, I think it's like understanding from the printing of the US dollar to the needs of the Indian consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And but I do believe being a part of the dialogue, having the know of what's going on, does stitch a new code on the three-dimensional tapestry of our minds. So I think now, being in the UK, I got invited by the Department of Trade, and I think London is a bad habit that I don't want to lose. But when we moved here to London, to central London, and we found a lot of problems in the industry that I'm currently addressing, which is home services. We wanted a plumber, it was a challenge. We wanted a removals person, it was a problem. We wanted to find a locksmith or an electrician. Everything was just a nightmare. Calling friends, going to the internet, finding unreliable people, people's calls going on voicemails, needing to do double bookings. And there was just a plethora of challenges. There was no shortage of problems. It was just problems galore. The industry, I think, is in a deep mess. And I think what was important for us, that if we are having so many problems, I wonder what the market must be going through. We started a dialogue on a primary basis with many, many people in many capacities, only to learn that it's even deeper than what I thought. Living in Kensington and central London still was a pretty prime position in terms of finding people. But I think when I started to see the broader landscape, it was absolutely tumultuous. So it became absolutely essential for me to look at that gap from the inside out. And I said, this is a large market. It's $1 trillion opportunity between Europe and the US. It's a large gap, and it's a very visible gap. And I feel that in these large gaps, if you can build a meta solution, if you're driven by the passion of solving the consumer pain, and you can find a meta solution, and that meta solution contains inside of it intellectual property and deep moats on that intellectual property, then I think you have this unique value hold on how you want to manifest that into the ecosystem. So we found that consumers were in deep, deep trouble. The tradesmen were completely marginalized. The government was suffering, and the environment was suffering. And we thought that there's a solution available through an underlying secret magic bullet, which could solve all of these problems. And I started to embark on that mission of working on that. And today I can tell you with confidence that we probably built the world's most applied conversational technology. And, it does things that were not possible. And it does things that are going to completely allow a huge change to happen on the back of this underlying technology, which has got its own very safe anchorage and deep rooting and our intellectual property.
So in other words, you figured out that it was a nightmare in British speak, English speak, nightmare to get plumbers and builders and reliable ones at that. And you had to rely on your personal network, if you had one, that is. And then even when you went through the journey, yes, it was super expensive. Maybe the experience was suboptimal. And you thought, right, this can't be the way forward, right? There's got to be a better way of doing it. And of course, I can relate to something I'm sure you were thinking as a technologist. You're always thinking about, well, how could this be done more smartly, better, faster, more intelligently, making people, driving convenience, making people money, of course, but actually taking away a lot of the pain and the lethargy or the, wastage that may exist in a certain process. And, we all know that. We've had builders before. I've done my home. People have story after story. That's one thing, honestly, Anuj, home services, where everyone has a story. And often some of those stories, actually majority are not good stories, a bad builder, a bad plumber. There are some great stories, but you don't obviously hear it.
I think it's a state of the industry app because 91% of the market is fragmented with moms and pops with less than 3 employees. And the industry is not being consolidated for some real reasons. And I feel that the reason was that one had to disrupt the industry from call to book to chat to book. Only if one did that and took the experience of this mom and pop owner who was picking up the phone and talking to customers all day, you brought it to this conversational commerce, you were able to disintermediate that unwanted person in the middle and give the power to the tradesperson who actually executes the job on the scene. So that the availability of artificial intelligence allowed us to build the protocol and the algorithms needed to disintermediate this industry through digital dialoguing and conversational engine to be able to become the layer between because it is a consultative closure. You have customers giving you requirements and you have to understand what they're looking for. And then you have to explain that to the tradesperson who work for us. So we are not a marketplace. These people work for us. So we're able to deliver the quality of the experience that we endeavor to. And I think the economics go through a radical shift when you digitize and when you electronicize the consultative discussion between the consumer and us through a software versus a human who's answering the call. Not only do you improve the velocity, but also improve the accuracy in the entire process.
Yeah. And that's super important because, a little bit like the IT industry, old school sort of offshoring days, the conversation between the buyer and the seller and then the projects that then get rolled out, often there was high failure rates in those projects, 80% failure. And a lot of it, they came to the conclusion, of course, it continues, this problem, hopefully it'll be solved one day, is the communication challenges, whether it's cross-cultural communication, cross-functional communication. And that is one of the reasons why expectations aren't met. Whether in your case it's someone coming and fixing your plumber and putting in a new boiler, and then you thinking, oh my God, I don't have £4,000 to get the boiler replaced, and so on and so forth, and it goes on and on. Tell me one more backdrop before we get into what you've actually built, because it's fascinating. If you look at the current state of play for us from an economic standpoint, it's a pretty sort of tough situation, right? As I say, you have to make friends with uncertainty, and this is one of those times where for this community of people, or this sort of group of people who are the providers, the plumbers, the workmen, and so on and so forth, the cost of living crisis, the high levels of inflation, the supply chains, totally disrupted, where building work is costing 2, 3, 4x of what it used to cost even 2 or 3 years ago. And you're, I'm sure, aware of that. Tell us a little bit about what you see as the problem and maybe aspects of the solution has positive effects even in this environment, if at all. So given the backdrop, it's tough. If someone is using your solution at scale on the delivery side, so I'm a plumber, I'm a workman of some sort. Why is this good for me? Especially in this environment?
So you're saying what is good for the tradesperson? Yeah,
absolutely.
So just imagine, think of the life of Charlie or Smith, who work for John, and John is the owner of a mom and pop shop. So Charlie and Smith are completely marginalized. They basically work for this mom and pop owner, John, who has his equity locally in his area, and now he's passing the work onto these people. They are not given any guaranteed work. They're not given any promise on the income flow. They are completely subservient. They're shouted upon by the owner and the customer. They don't have any family time and make very minimal sort of income to survive.
Right.
We jumped them out of that environment by making them join Greenvan, because remember, we've gotten rid of John, who was the mom and pop owner, because we've taken that entire function, that entire experience of John into the software. So he's gone, who used to keep 40% of the transaction value, right?
Wow, as much as that?
Yeah, exactly, as much as that. And, very rarely do you see technology disruption having high degrees of alignment with economic thrust. Where do you see? I mean, Uber and Amazon haven't delivered a 40% cost reduction in their business through technology. But I think bringing in AI and conversational commerce and reducing the cost in this industry by 40% allows us to bless the ecosystem by sharing, by putting the money back in the pockets of the consumer by reducing price, by doubling the income of the tradesman, because we just have so much saving out of this cost reduction technology. So what happens to the tradesperson? They double their income. They get 20% or 30% more time with their family. They become bankable because the money moves into the bank account versus being given in cash. They focus on their core. They do their best. They outsource the rest. And, they have a much more robust sort of life, and they become the heroes of their own life. They're their own bosses. They're not subservient and rendered to the pinata every day, either by their boss or the consumer. So they go through a tectonic shift and a massive jump in their quality of life. The consumer, on the other hand, is not now going helter-skelter and finding a reliable and an affordable tradesman, because what's the choice that the consumer has today? Either he goes really expensive or he goes unreliable. Okay, he has no midway experience of basically getting an affordable or reliable solution, because today the mom and pop shops have no choice but to turn opportunistic, and they become rip-off agents, because they're like, oh. So I remember, nothing makes me more happy than this 84-year-old elderly lady sitting in the southwest of England being thankful to us and telling us that Greenvan is the only home services company that she has seen in the last 20 years, which she felt was not opportunistic or not a rip-off business, because she wanted to move a piano which was left by a beloved husband, and people were giving her unbelievable quotations. They were charging her £350, £380, but it was a 4-mile job, and we just did the job for like £78. And she was like, because we have the ability to digitally dialogue between the seeker and the provider, close the transaction, price the transaction. We're not interested in creating, sort of divisive techniques here to create this sharp practices of pricing. But I think our system is very fair and square. And, because we have so much demand as a national brand, and being multi-service allows us to capture a lot more demand from the same consumer and many different people's demands, because of being a central multi-service brand. So we were able to take a job and fit it inside her already planned scheduled run routes that we had for that day. So we were able to deliver a much better sort of price and experience to her. So nothing makes me more happy than that, Af.
Do you, like Uber, for example, I guess because you've got a supply and demand thing going on, it's two-sided. Do you also have mechanisms where there's feedback or reverse feedback for both sides? Because, of course, it's quite a sensitive thing, right? When you have someone walking into your house, so, often people aren't happy paying the money, and then, there's always complaints about, oh, you did a terrible job. The builder might say, or the plumber might say, actually, I did the best I could with what I had available. And so how do you ensure quality on both ends? And so no one feels like, it's unfair in any way, shape or form.
I feel, so how do we ensure quality? Are you saying, how do we ensure feedback between both sides?
Yeah, because of course, like I come to your house, right, and you have a great experience. Now you're taking away not taking it away, but the relationship element is important. And I might want you back again. I might say, I really want to work with Anuj because he's great. He's the best plumber I know. And I'll use the same channel, but I'll have you back again. But how do I ensure that Anuj is rated highly and he's like the best plumber in town?
Yeah. So first of all, we are not a marketplace. So the people who work for us are employed by a company. We want to give them a guaranteed income, a guaranteed annual income, and we want to benchmark their performance through some very unique sort of rating systems. Okay. Now, because we don't want to create a disproportionately disadvantageous position for somebody else. But I think what we're doing is we're upping the bar for everybody through great training and great performance.
Right.
So we know consumers are blessed with divine discontent. We know that they are always interested in a great next deal. So the beauty is the technology allows us to control the entire experience of the entire transaction from the word go until the day of the job. When the person actually goes and does the job physically, it's all managed by the system. So think about it like this, that when you are flying, you're taking on a trip and you're going on a flight somewhere, the booking is done by the agent. The journey to the airport is, all your updates are done by the agent. The journey to the airport is managed by the agent. The check-in almost is controlled, let's say, by the agent. All that the airline is doing is making you fly. So we are saying that right from the booking to understanding a requirement to taking the money from you to giving you alerts to doing everything,
right.
The job part is controlled by the tradesperson, who's also very well organized by us and trained by us, and of course coming with a deep amount of experience himself. But I think the experience that the consumers have witnessed has allowed us to get almost a 99% rating of a 10 on 10 in the thousands of jobs we've done, because they were like, what were we doing earlier? We were calling many people. We were getting bizarre quotes from different people at different levels. We were double booking. Somebody was taking advance from us. Somebody was not showing up. Somebody was telling us I can only come on a Thursday at 3 p.m. Somebody was, taking away our deposit, running away. Somebody was breaking our things and never being reachable again, to a point where we make the booking on a 24/7 basis through a chat. Everything is in a single transcript. Money is taken on record, on file, and you are alerted many times before the job is done. And there's a single version of the truth. The tradesperson comes, has no interest in doing anything other than what's the scope, and then the job is done. And it's a much. So I think it's like the experience is a diametric difference. It's from tragic to magic, I would call it.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your technology platform. So what is it and what's so unique about it?
You see, we found in the home services space, in the transaction equation, that the way bookings were done was by actually finding numbers from the internet and calling up somebody to make a booking. That somebody who was picking up the phone was actually the owner of the mom and pop shop with 30 years of experience. And that somebody, let's call him John, was actually keeping 40% of the transaction revenue. We were like, look, if we can get rid of John, which is possible through building a deep-moated technology using AI, we had this massive advantage that we can pass on to everybody. It's like an airline who now has water instead of fuel to fly the plane. So suddenly they don't have the 40% cost anymore. So this massive cost reduction technology allowed us. And this technology is not easy because now you have, imagine in case of removals or in case of plumbing, you have 20,000 questions that can be asked in 50 different ways. So you have 1 million questions with permutations, combinations out there in terms of the way customers ask questions, tell their problems from symptom to diagnosis. Through various cuts and contours, our technology traverses the journey with the customer in this funnel, and through a consultative closure, it basically goes and makes a booking. So it's conversational commerce, it's digital dialoguing, it's replacing that person in the middle and creating this new economic reality by reducing costs to unbelievable extents and passing that benefit back. And I think what's unique is having the 1 million permutation combination of questions inside our technology and creating this generative answer to the bespoke query that the customer has,
right. Yeah.
producing the pricing, taking the money, making the booking, scheduling for the tradesperson, and then executing the task, and then being available aftermarket for any questions that they may have. So it's not just the one part of the top of the funnel or the bottom of the funnel. It's the whole equation from start to the end. And of course, we have liposuction the equation by removing the fat from every part of the journey. But more importantly, what I wanted to share with you, it's not going to be easy to disrupt somebody like us, because one part of our equation is the physical doing of the job, right? Where Charlie physically comes to your home to fix a plumbing issue. Right. So it's not like another company can just come and do some digital technology and replace us, because we are so deeply entrenched and so much feet on the street, where the entire process at the beginning is digitally automated, but the last piece is done by the person. So it's not going to be that easy. Somebody just comes with a better algo, better protocol to change us overnight. So we are deeply anchored in the system from a robustness point of view. So think of us like a scalable model in an old school industry, creating this de-risk return for the investor.
Right. What was the logic, something playing on my mind, what was the logic around employing these tradesmen? Because if I think about the psychology, a lot of the tradesmen, of course, I'm generalizing, some do want to be employed with whoever it may be. It could be the best company in the world. It could be Greenvan. And some don't want to be employed. Yeah. One of the cool things about the Uber model, which works well, is this ability to have, this ability for flexibility, where when you're on, you can do all the jobs you want because they keep coming in because they come in on demand. And when you don't want to work, you turn your device off. Why wouldn't you consider something like that rather than taking on, I guess you could have a hybrid approach, but what's your thinking around it? Is it just because one model works better, the other one doesn't work, or what was the logic?
I think controlling quality and delivering service to the right levels was one of the main reasons. Also, I think importantly, when you have a lot of demand, I mean, I can give you one metric, for example, just on Google, 40,000 daily searches are done in finding tradespeople every day in this country. So you can imagine that when there is such a large amount of demand, you don't have any shortage of work to be done. You can just bring people and employ them because you know that there is guaranteed work to be done. And then they get the stability. Right. They are able to now get the promise they're looking for. The reason why they're not wanting to commit today is because they're not having any certainty in the work that they're going to get. Because otherwise, you want to take them out of the idiosyncratic challenges to a stable environment. They all love to migrate to that. And we haven't felt even for one bit that, somebody's telling us that we're not interested in committing to you, because they get the safety and the certainty and the security with their families now being able to get one extra vacation a year, the wife's able to get one extra meal out a week, and the daughter able to get an iPad. I mean, the safety and the security of that feeling is very calming and soothing for them and for us. And the environment turns into a very gentlemanly sort of coexistence of the two parties together.
Right. What is your vision then, Anuj? Where are you going to take this? What's your dream about this? What's the idea?
I think the idea is to have an audacious goal. I think change the trajectory of humanity and the ecosystem that we belong, the way we're working in. I mean, if you think about it, consumers will turn into order makers from order takers. We'll create access to immediacy because it's available 24/7. Book in an instant. You can get your job done. We are going to create this massively soft connective tissue which has got no friction. You're not waiting on an IVR for 30 minutes. You're not completely taken out of the system because of that. So our vision is the future of services where we will have on call, on choice. The way, if you look at Amazon today, it's become a shopping destination from a need-based place to almost a want-based place. So you're going to come back home and you'll be like, look, the price of a Japanese chef tonight is 22 pounds an hour, or a masseuse, or a babysitter, or a dance teacher. So I see the future of services going to where Amazon is today, like the way Amazon Prime is. So you can think about what's going to happen there. So it's going to be a tectonic shift in the way it's looked at today, with frictionless experience. In a matter of minutes, you're able to book your great next masseuse that you were looking for. So you got to think about service like if Amazon and Uber were to have a baby, it would be called Greenvan. Because the multiplicity of services come out of Amazon, and the specificity of delivery will come out of the Uber kind of experience.
Got it. Wonderful. What has been the hardest thing about doing this? Of course, you've been an experienced entrepreneur. What's been the toughest thing that either has gone away or you still contend with?
I mean, there is no shortage of challenges, Af. I mean, the point is, how do you come and disrupt a 100-year-old industry? Anybody could have done it. Why has it not happened? I mean, I'm not, some, great guy that happened to the planet. I think we looked at this and we were like, there is a major reason why it's not happened. And the reason was that the transaction equation, where every part of the ecosystem that was involved in the transaction could not be displaced until AI became a reality. Right. And we were like, only with AI coming in, you could actually move a major part of the human involvement to technology, changing the economics. And with that reality, creating this new alignment. And, when there is great alignment, there is great assignment. Mm-hmm. So we feel that allowed us to sort of, history may not repeat, but definitely rhymes. And I think the time has come where technology is AI is moving from the adjacent possible into the mainstream. And one of the best things that is going to come out of that is the way internet created Amazon, and the way mobility and micro GPS created Uber. I think AI is going to create the new next generation of services companies, with, I think, Greenvan being at the forefront for home services.
Yeah, thank you for that. The most brilliant thing about AI these days is at every level possible, thanks to some of the new AI innovations. GPT chat is one of the recent ones that has caught light, and everyone seems to be jumping onto trying to figure out how AI can be good for them. Of course, that's just one type of AI. There's so many other ways in which we can benefit from this powerful technology. I love the fact, actually, one of my takeaways from what you just said was creating this change or form of disruption in the status quo, 100-year-old way of doing things. Yeah. I think what I took away from that, which I'm sure many of our listeners should take away, is that until and unless you can bring something to life in whatever form, it doesn't have to be the perfect form, in whatever form, and you can start allowing them to experience it. It goes back to the old, very simple aspect of human nature, which is when you immerse us in something, there is a higher chance that we will adopt it.
Yeah.
And so when it's conceptual, which is great, some of us can pick it up, with our big ideas and maverick thinking. But I think at large, one has to bring to life something, allow people to play with it and touch it and feel it. And only then you'll see what the reaction and the response is. And that's how you tweak. I mean, startup, development and the startup mentality is about iterations, right? And experimentations. And I guess you've been doing that. Tell us a little bit before we close off. I mean, it's fascinating what you're doing, and thank you for sharing it with us. There's so much more that we can discuss today. We have a finite amount of time. Where is the business today, and how big are you? How scaled are you? And what is your ask of those watching this show today? Where we have investors, we have corporate executives, we have entrepreneurs like you, we have academics, philanthropists, economists, and the list goes on. So two things. One is, where are you now? And secondly, what is your ask from StraightTalk and the StraightTalk community?
I think, first of all, as the carpenters of the internet landscape, we want to be on the wallpaper of every consumer's mind. I think that's really important for us. We want to deliver a very reliable and a very stable offering to the consumer, and making them feel that they are in very safe pair of hands. More important than anything else for me, I think, is that the market endorsement is there for us. Where we are today, we've done thousands of transactions in our initial project phase. We've got a post-product market fit product where we've got a tremendous amount of great feedback from people telling us that from a very difficult situation, and as I would say, from tragic to magic, that they feel the experience with us. I think because there has been such a large shift in the economics due to severe amounts of automation in the process, we are hoping to be one of the few businesses globally to produce a very large EBIT on the back of a very small amount of funding, because the market prices haven't changed, but the cost base has been completely shifted. So you need very little money to get to where you want to. So I would say if Uber needed 25 million to produce a 20 million EBIT, and Amazon needed 30 million or 50 million to produce a 20 million EBIT, I think Greenvan is going to need a sixth of that to produce the same amount of EBIT. So what we're saying is a true business should be the one that takes little money and produces the highest return on equity for the members of the different stakeholders in the system, whether it's the investors, it's our partners, and so on and so forth. Because also let's not forget, one important point that you had asked, this is going to be phenomenal for not only the environment because of green vans and light touch booking process and not heavy offices, but also great for government. Because as a national brand, when we market our business, in different parts of the country, let's say from Liverpool to Birmingham to Leeds to wherever we are going to be able to regionalize and fulfill demand locally. Because as a multi-service brand, Greenvan, from plumbing to electricians to locksmiths to movers to whatever, we will get the demand and we will train the people locally and fulfill it locally. So there's not going to be a huge amount of wastage of resources and traveling and wasting time. Because remember, the currency in trade here is time and space, and you want to maximize the return by optimizing yield and utilization. So that is going to become very interesting. So our ask is, we want partners who are aligned with our values. And I'm working hard in upping my concept of purpose and my sense of values. And that's a book on my nightstands. And, I think we want to have strategic and technological autonomy to reduce human vulnerability. That's an important goal for us. And I think my larger point is that, we believe that the best is on its way. And we hope that the right kind of people can come and become a partner of our business. And I've got a meeting scheduled with Jeff Bezos. That should be really a lot of fun. And it was lucky to have met him. And I think they look at us as an Amazon of services. So that should be a lot of fun for us. And again, the idea is not being very cool, but being very realistic to deliver this enormously good experience of actually changing the way services are consumed today and saying, this is not a problem anymore. This is a solved problem. We can rely on Greenvan to do this for us. I don't have to unnecessarily befriend a plumber or an electrician and have that number in my phone book the way we used to have a minicab driver's phone number 7 years ago. Today, Uber's taken that number out of our phone book. So I think relationships are going to turn more realistic than just opportunistic, is what I feel, with a reliable and a sustainable solution like ours. And hopefully you'll see our dinky cars, our green vans around dots of London telling you that there is somebody out there who does care about you if somebody ended up falling in the bathroom or something like that.
Is there in terms of locations? Can everyone and anyone access Greenvan right now across the UK? Where are you present?
So, it's in our start of our early days. Obviously, we are A by being, and we are experimenting with different services in different pockets of different parts of England and the UK at large. So we're doing things in Glasgow and we're doing things in Birmingham, different services in different geographical sort of parts of the country. But I think over time, as we scale and as we put in more resources into the business, you will see us as an omnipresent business on all services out there. But we hope to fill more gaps and we hope to address more needs and become a reliable protocol that you want to see.
Fantastic. Final couple of questions. The first one is, imagine you're in a situation now where your younger self walks into that room, and whatever younger self that is, I mean, you're young anyway, but a younger you. And with all of these life experiences you've been through and good things that you've done and breakthroughs that you've achieved and also the tough stuff, what are the one or two things that you would say to your younger self right now, on the spot? What would you tell your younger self?
What would I tell my younger self? I think what I would say that I think what waits for us is an amazing tomorrow. The intelligence of today is going to become the common sense of tomorrow. Luxuries of today are going to become basics of tomorrow. And the hustles of today are going to become heroes of tomorrow. So my younger self is telling me that single tunnel focus, consumer first, and let's figure out our unique value contribution and create the disproportionate advantage that we can have to making the world a better place. Because the idea is to not create a dent in the universe with our weight, but with our clout. So, this is how I think about things, Af.
Okay, nice, lovely. The energy that you have, the positivity that you exude, and just the focus, I think it's very clear. It comes across on this session, and I'm sure everyone who's watching realizes that you're a man with a purpose and very driven to solving this problem that, of course, you care a lot about. And I think entrepreneurs will love to watch this, and so will aspiring entrepreneurs who are wanting to come into this space. And I'm hoping some corporate executives too, who can then knock on your door and either give you some money or give you some business. Of course, venture capital investors who listen to this show should connect with you. And that's my final point. So where do people get hold of Greenvan, Anuj Gupta? Are there websites, or are you on LinkedIn? Tell us a little bit about how we get hold of you.
It's really easy. We are very present out there. I mean, it's greenvan.eu. So contact us at greenvan.eu, contact at greenvan.eu. On the site, there are numbers. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm present everywhere. So the website is the best place to go. And, you'll be able to link into our system. And then it's very easy through that. And of course, LinkedIn is very much there to find us and to reach us. But this has been fascinating that, you're making an effort for us to get reach out there. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So 30 seconds, how has the experience been for you today? Just a few words. You're very articulate and you've got fantastic, snapshot statements and so on and so forth. What's been the experience for you today on Straight Talk? Just sum it up in a few words. I
think very rarely do people ask me questions like you have, where I felt today that the journey is actually inward. And I think you're a person who I've looked at as who believes and who lives with this theory of let wisdom viral. Very rarely do I see that. And I think you also make us realize that while our expectation of our future is linear, but our potential is exponential. So I think you made me drawn to some of those points about how I think about life and how I think about things. And then I think entrepreneurs are born hungry and naked, but I think things only get more interesting. So you have definitely delved into regions and areas of my thinking that I'd not thought about. And I'm glad you did not give me a sheet of paper with questions that you wanted to ask. It is a very free, open conversation that we've had. Yeah. And I hope that, of course, whoever is going to watch this, and if they want to use Greenvan, they want to participate in Greenvan, if they have any feedback onto us, we are here to learn. We are a result of a ton of mistakes. I can't even remember my top 3, but the idea is the path to perfection is under construction. And we are here to only better our formula and making it from smoking hot to positively fiery with friends like you around us.
Wonderful. Anuj Gupta, what a pleasure to have you on the Straight Talk show today under the auspices of Startup Mavericks, our first season / series. And You are our first guest, so you are the linchpin, and I'm expecting we're going to have a busy roster over the course of 2023 and look back at all of our excellent episodes and talks, and this will definitely be a standout one. We wish you all the best in your endeavor with your startup, Greenvan. I will do everything I can to support you and promote the great work that you're doing. Don't forget us, keep in touch with us, maybe come back when you have achieved one part of your mission or your potential, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you everyone for joining the show today. Do go onto our YouTube channel, click subscribe on the bottom right somewhere there, and I look forward to catching up with you all very, very soon. I sign off now. I'm Af Malhotra, Straight Talk. All the best.
Thanks, Af. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anuj.